It's me, Andy and Ben again. And today we have this 599 Questyle Sigma, a Delta Sigma DAC amp. And this thing is actually quite very interesting because as you can see here, I'm holding it in my hand. It is actually fairly thin, almost as thin as my mobile phone here. And you can see everything here. It runs on AKM AK4493, right?
Yes, 493.
Okay, 4493. And of course, the biggest attraction of this Questyle Sigma being Questyle is that the proprietary current mode amplification, at which when I first look at the specification, I was like, wow, is this for real? Because there's a mention there, it goes all the way to 5 watt of peak power. Okay, and upon further inspection, it is actually at around 1002 milliwatt of power, right?
Yep.
One,
Balance.
yes.
Yeah.
1200 milliwatt of power steady, but it can pick up to 500 milliwatt of power. But honestly, I have no idea how to trigger that because imagine this 500 milliwatt of power is like
5,000.
definitely 5,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a desktop DAC amp territory. Yeah. Okay, so let's just have a closer look at the build and the construction. And you're gonna find there's quite a lot of stuff on one side here, which is the switch on button here, of course. And of course, this is volume up and down, spaced very closely. I would prefer if there's a bit more of space here. And this is of course a toggle switch for you to toggle between Bluetooth and USB. And quite interestingly, they also have this gain here, which is high and standard. So instead of calling it low, they call it standard. And of course, we have another one here, which is called HP out and even IM out. So the main difference between this thing is that I believe this is some sort of impedance switch, but I have no way of confirming it. But the effect of it is that, of course, if you have highly sensitive stuff like hybrid IM, you might want to use the IM because it will actually render a much blacker or silent background, supposedly for widely sensitive stuff. And of course, this is lock button. Now, all right. So this is currently attached to this Hi-Fi-Man HE1000 SE, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's quite a mouthful. And and it has been running for the last almost 40 minutes now, driving. And the reason I'm doing that because I'll be interested to know the temperature that this thing emit, because I can tell you right now, after using it for quite a while, both me and Ben have found out that this Sigma can be kind of a bit hot, on the hotter side, despite being a solid state amplifier, probably because of the current mode amplification. Like, yeah, there you go. You see that? 39.2, almost 40C. And you have to remember 40C is like almost 40C is when used like this without any kind of case or used in an open space. But I can tell you one thing, it will probably go over 40C if you place it in your pocket. Because it is easy to put this thing into your pocket and the temperature will go up probably like 40C. Have you put it in your pocket?
No.
It is hot. It is.
Yeah.
And the battery, what's the capacity?
4,300 milliamp hour. Yeah.
4,300 mAh of battery. So I'm just kind of a bit mind-boggled how they managed to squeeze that battery inside here. I'm intrigued to open it. But the key thing is that battery, even running on high gain, even running on, let's say, highly demanding stuff, you're pushing the current mode, I was able to get actually quite impressively at around 12 hours or even 13 hours. How about you?
Yeah, same.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is non-stop, okay?
Yeah.
For a portable device, that is super impressive.
Maybe it's because there's no screen.
Yeah, because it's very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
But
only
yes,
has
it's
a
very-
LED
it's
light.
very impressive
Yeah,
for what it
We
is.
should also mention that if you are looking into features like some Kain or even let's say iBasso product that have this LED stuff and everything.
Yeah, yep.
But you have to remember, in order to have that luxury, you might need to sacrifice on the endurance.
Yeah.
And here, Questyle have opted to do a simple approach of making it so rudimentary, so simple. Even the, let's say, volume indicator, the gain is all using LED.
Yeah, so you for the volume you actually have to estimate a little bit because it comes only in the four lights
four
there,
indicators.
right? Four indicators there. So
you have to guess.
Yeah, you have to guess a little bit.
Another very interesting thing is that the battery. Okay, and this is another quite impressive because you would notice that at the back here, there's two USB port. Okay, one is for charging and one is dedicated for just the audio signal, and of course 3.5 mm single-ended and 4.4 mm balance, which is pretty much as per expected. But the key thing is that this thing, despite having this charge in 5 volt 2 amp here, this thing actually does not have any kind of influence into the sound itself, because this unit has been designed to be autonomous, fully independent of external power. What I have checked with Questyle, I actually messaged them, I asked them, can I run desktop mode? Can I get better power if I were to attach this permanently to, let's say, a power bank, okay? Like iBasso DX340 or some other players, which you know that you can get more power by. They said, no, this is just for charging only, okay? So it is kind of pointless if you put it there, because all you're going to do is that add up the temperature. But good thing is that being autonomous, you can always expect 100 performance from this Sigma without the need to piggyback it to any external power. And I think that is one of the purpose, one of the key appeal of a portable device. And of course, another one, let's just find out how heavy this thing is, because I have already shown you that it is almost as thick or just slightly thicker than my mobile phone. So you're looking at this now, and under 200 gram, very impressive at 163, because I believe my mobile phone is heavier. There you go. So it is actually quite light, okay? So build-wise, I would say Sigma is quite impressive, because if I were to compare this with another DAC amp which I have reviewed just yesterday, which is Muse Hi-Fi M6 Double,
yeah.
that thing is literally a brick. Okay, and don't get me started with iBasso D17. Okay, you can't carry that anywhere in your pocket. That is like, this is a true portable device. However, I wish that Questyle could have included two things. First and foremost, it would be nice if this Sigma would have come together with something like a MagSafe, so that I can probably attach it and this thing will stick to my phone, because my phone here have MagSafe. Now, if you were to piggyback it using USB cable like this, then you're gonna have to find a solution, either fabricate your own MagSafe, like, you know, interface here, and so that you can attach to your phone or your iPhone. And on top of it, it doesn't have a case. It would be perfect if Questyle, if you're listening to this, make a case for this, because this device would be very nice if we have a leather case which also have MagSafe, so that we can piggyback it like this. Okay. Another one, connectivity. Okay. There are two connectivity options, and for the most part, Ben has been spending quite a bit of time using this on USB connection. Okay. And I have been using it 80% of the time on Bluetooth. Another good thing about this Sigma is that it also offers Snapdragon sound, one of the biggest appeal. So if you know Snapdragon sound, then you can expect the best aptX performance, including aptX lossless. However, when connected to my phone like this, I can even show you now, right? Click on Bluetooth, you see it's connected. You would notice that it says aptX adaptive. And when I communicate again, I message Questyle again, hey, Snapdragon sounds means that this thing can run aptX lossless, because I want aptX lossless. And they told me this, yes, it is capable of running aptX lossless, but it will not show here, because the mechanism, the implementation of Snapdragon sound here is that it is always prioritized on aptX adaptive, meaning to say that for as long as you keep this device here and this phone within the proximity of something like this, okay, this distance, then you're gonna run aptX lossless. And lossless is lossless. And I can actually attest to it that the sound is pretty much something which I would consider as there's no need for me to connect cable. And that is one of the reasons why I've been using it 80% of the time on aptX adaptive, because I honestly can't feel the difference listening to, you know, that wireless connection, especially when I am using Tidal. Because Tidal is compressed, by the way, streaming services. So when I use it, there's no difference, literally, aptX adaptive with USB connection. However, I will switch to USB connection only when I do local audio playback to play resolution higher than 1000 Mbps, something like DSD, anything about DSD 64 and above, and all the way to DSD 512. Yes, you can play DSD 1 bit maximum on this Questyle Sigma, which is again very impressive. And now on to the interesting part, power. I did mention just now like 1200 milliwatt of power. In order to get that, you're gonna have to switch on the high gain and also HP mode. And supposedly you are going to drive something like this humongous Hi-Fi-Man HE1000 SE. Okay,
Yeah.
from the 4.4 mm balance like this. Click it like that. Okay, and this is really mind-blowing because I needed only volume on most song at around 50%, which is crazy impressive. 50% driving this, okay? This is a very demanding headphone. And also the maximum probably at around 60%. And in a very noisy environment, I might push it up to 70, 75%. But the key thing is that for the most part, I am already very satisfied with 50%. How about you, Ben?
Same. It has enough power to drive it sufficiently well. You have your dynamics coming through nicely. It might not have the right amount of soundstage that the headphone is capable of doing.
In comparison with desktop.m, is it?
Yep, in comparison with desktop, yes. So the 1200 milliwatts power is very well utilized to push the headphone. This thing, the DX340 on super gain is about 1900 milliwatt. When I compare the two of them, I can hear, of course, the soundstage is slightly wider on the DX340, but at the same time, I mean, it's 1900 versus 1002, so it shows that this one is actually very capable.
Let me just stop you there. You are referring to DX340
Super
in
gain.
super gain mode, meaning that attached with external power. But how about iBasso DX340 on battery mode only?
Then it's about the same.
Comparable.
Yeah.
Impressive, right? Between this and this. Because this thing is literally $1,000 more expensive than this. Just try to digest that, okay?
Yeah.
On battery to battery performance. And going back to the performance of the desktop.m, which desktop.m was it just now? Was it like Hi-Fi-Man EF?
That's the Hi-Fi-Man EF400. So
EF400.
that one is specifically tailored for Hi-Fi-Man headphones. So that has a lot of current. That would really push the soundstage even wider.
Okay, so how much different in percentage you would say the variant?
More, it's about 30%.
30%, okay.
That's
So that's one of the reasons
20,
why
30%,
you want to have a desktop.m.
Yeah.
Because if you want to have 100% per se, then I would even say that using this and this, spending a bit of time listening to it just now, I am actually quite satisfied.
Yeah.
I am not bothered for the fact that I have a nagging feeling that I am hearing only 80% of what this thing is.
It doesn't sound cramped.
It doesn't sound
narrower.
It sounds very airy, right?
Yes.
It sounds very airy, and it sounds kind of like the speed, the transient itself is just like, I do not feel any kind of sluggishness. It doesn't sound thin, it doesn't sound dry, and it doesn't sound fatiguing at all. Because if you are familiar with Hi-Fi-Man headphone, then you know that if you don't drive them properly, they can be very fatiguing, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And the same thing can be said when I was back at home, when I drive my Sennheiser HD600 with this. I was actually quite impressed as well because I would even, let's say, compare it against something which is a lot more powerful like Aune N7, which is 6,500 milliwatt of power, Class A amplification. Then the differences would be probably at best, like he mentioned, 20 to 30%. But that is only when you comparing side by side. But if you don't compare side by side, you have to remember you can bring this thing anywhere with you in your pocket and enjoy your hard to drive headphone. So meaning to say that when you drive IEMs, absolutely super easy. So now we are talking about, let's say, hybrid. Very important question that I'm gonna ask you. You have very sensitive IEM as well, right? When you use it with this, do you hear any kind of floor noises at all? Clean, super clean.
Black, nice.
And you are using which mode?
I put it on high actually.
You put it on high, on desktop mode? Yeah.
It's on high gain. It's on high gain and IEM but high gain. Yeah.
Okay, IEM high gain.
Forgot to switch.
Okay, forgot to switch. So that's a good sign, meaning to say that he didn't even realize there's any kind of, let's say, because sometimes if you play with something which is very powerful, which emit a lot of heat, there's a tendency that hybrid, especially something like the Audio Monarch Mark IV, might pick some floor noises like that. But this one is super clean. Especially, all you need to do is that even if, let's say, you are super sensitive, you have a hearing like a dolphin, you can switch to, let's say, IEM and standard gain. Super silent.
Yeah.
No problem at all. And on to the best part, sound and performance. In order to do this, let's just ask Ben because I know he have been playing a lot with this thing. So Ben, what's your thought on this Sigma here?
It's so it's got the AKM sound, so it has a very smooth, slightly warm presentation. Not overly warm, it's just nice. But at the same time, what I noticed about this set is that the presentation of the sound is very incisive, very crisp, and very clear, and very transparent. There is a slight, very, very slight emphasis in the mids. So it allows the it allows the vocals to come out very nicely. You have that texture and resolution in vocals that stand out a bit more than something that is totally neutral. Bass is also very punchy, incisive, impactful, and clear. So I find that the way it is presented is very, very mature sounding and very confident. Treble, I thought there might be a very, 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 very slight roll off in the treble, but slightly less airy than something else.
Something else.
Yeah. But it's really, I don't think you can complain anything about it at all.
If you nitpick.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'd like to echo his sentiment because the keyword that I would describe is that don't judge by the size, because the kind of sound, especially with the current mode amplification, one of the reasons that is appealing with Questyle product is that it has body of sound.
Yeah.
And he said incisive. My word for it is that tactile sound, which means that you can feel the dynamism of the sound itself, and yet it has maturity. So meaning to say that it is not exactly euphonic. You can feel the body of the sound, it is tactile, and it adds body to IEM, which is naturally like, for example, something which is kind of a bit clinical sounding. Then you suddenly feel that, hey, this thing does not sound lean, this thing doesn't sound dry, and in fact, it has that, nice detailed texture, especially with the macro detail. With the micro detail, yes, I will admit that sometimes, because we have listened to so many other devices, something like, D17 Etheris, which is not a fair comparison, by the way. That thing is like
$1,000 more. Yeah.
It's a monster, or even something like Hybrid R8 Mark II will render the micro details better. But like I said, let me just remind you again, that is not a fair comparison, because if I were forced to compare this with them, meaning to say that this thing is crazily impressive. Okay, just put that in mind, that especially if you use super efficient hybrid or flagship hybrid, something like BGVP Solomon, or even something like Don X, or even something like Mass something over there.
IR Z1R.
Yes. Can you tell them how does it sound like with this?
The synergy on it is very nice.
Very nice.
Because this thing, the mids is a bit one of the weak points about the IEM, and the slight warmth in the Sigma actually helps it a lot, and it also is able to push the soundstage to a very, very nice level, because the Sony needs power, it scales very well with power, and the Sigma does a very, very good job of doing that.
And if I'm not mistaken, you were like running high gain on this, right? With this? Or
this is slightly high.
It's like IEM running on high gain, which is meant for headphone, by the way, in order to drive this bugger here. Because this thing is like, if you know this is kind of a bit demanding.
Yes.
So my point now is that technically it's very well implemented. I am hearing the kind of technical performance which I consider as impressive. Even for this price point, it is definitely punching above the price, because what you get in exchange, instead of being outright a detail monster, instead of outright being, let's say, all highly technical, the biggest element which I really appreciate about Questyle is that the time that they spend to tune on the element of tonality and timbre, which is an even bigger element for me, because when we use many IEMs which are, let's say, designed to be highly technical, highly clinical, sometimes they tend to sound very sharp, can be outright fatiguing. I can even tell you some flagship IEM, I can't even listen to them for more than half an hour. But one thing that this Sigma is capable of doing is that to tame that aggression, because of that maturity, the way it handle the dynamics and also the tonality and the timbre, which is, let me just stress here, being analog sounding. Okay, you agree?
Very natural.
Analog sounding, and it is largely uncolored because there are many type of analog sounding. If you're familiar with me, and when we have tried a lot of, let's say, R to R, 1-bit, tubes and stuff, there's also neutral in the perspective of tube, neutral in the perspective of R to R. And this is something which I consider as neutral and natural in the perspective of delta, sigma, DAC, M.
Yeah.